Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Recently, it's kind of come out that there's three camps of people about the passport bros. 4 camps of people about passport bros. Number 1 is the guys that are passport bros, and they think what they're doing is smart. Number 2 is men calling the passport bros losers, because if you have to go overseas to find a woman, you're weak and you don't have alpha game. Then there's the women that, of course, hate on the men going overseas looking for women because they think that the women that they're looking for are uneducated and too young. And then there's a surprising group of women that have started coming out and saying, you know what, I think these passport bros are actually onto something. Now, why are more women starting to understand where guys are coming from? Because with posts like this, and I have a whole video I'm going to break down. I put together a bunch of various TikTok videos here that I want to kind of go through. It's about 7 minutes, so by the time I finish talking over it, we'll probably be about 15 minutes. But I think it's really relevant because even women are starting to look around at a lot of the women's stuff that's being shown online, and they're like, yeah, women are kind of crappy to date right now. And I don't know if it's the circles that I belong in or the sites that I follow online, but what I don't see is a lot of videos of dudes being like, oh, she's got to be a supermodel, and she's got to have a body like Padao and a face like Babam, and she's got to be bringing lots of money to the table. I don't see those videos everywhere. What I mostly see is women acting the fool, and then men being like, yeah, we don't really want to date women like this. If there are videos out there of guys, behaving badly, I think they'd be a lot more prevalent on the internet. So this is from Black Millionaires. They don't have a ton of followers. They got 38,000, so more than me on X over on Twitter. And he says, a man asked 15 random women if their rent was $500, how much they would tell their man their rent was, knowing he was going to pay it. Their answers will shock you. Spoiler alert, their answers will not shock you. So he asks, now these I think are mostly black women that he's talking to. But he says, hey, if your man's going to pay rent and it's $500, how much are you going to tell him that your rent actually is? And I'll fade into it so I don't blow your ears out.
Your rent is $500. What do you tell your man your rent is? My rent $1K.
I'm gonna say 1,000 so I can keep the other 5.
It's 15.
1,500. 1,800. 1,200. 1,250.
Like 1,000. My rent 1,000. You heard?
Do with the other 5.
It's mine. It don't matter what I do with it.
It's mine. It does no, it's not yours. It's his.
$500.
Okay, there's one honest answer right there.
Want me to lie? Hell yeah.
500.
$2K off the bet.
That shit is $2,000. Give me the extra.
3,500.
$3,500. She would steal $3,000 from her man, and that's what it is stealing. Let's be clear about that.
What are you gonna do with the extra money?
Why?
Your rent.
And so we know this, guys, that the way feminists look at men today is they're dumb, they're worthless, they're useless. I don't need no man. But also, if I'm going to have a man, I'm going to lie to him and make him pay extra money. And why do you need to know what I'm going to use the extra money for? It's my money. I stole it from him. That's really what this boils down to, if we're being honest. So I decided to dive into this a little bit deeper, and I started pulling out some clips. Like I said, this is about 7 minutes, 42 seconds. I'm not going to do a crap ton of over talking. I'll try to jump in and make some little points here and there. But I want you to kind of see, it's a really big paintbrush that is painting women right now. And it's painting a lot of women as really awful people. So much so that even other women are like, yeah, this is not going well.
I could not resist, so I had to look it up. From the Office of National...
Now, this says on the screen, lesbians have a 75% divorce rate, and they make the same complaints that straight women do when it comes to why their relationships ended.
Statistics from a 2019 study, in ever-increasing numbers, we are now at a lesbian divorce rate of 72%. So the top 4 reasons that they are reporting getting divorced is feeling ignored, inequality in the partnership, adultery, and domestic violence. Personally, I feel like this lends some weight to men's arguments and complaints about how women are behaving in relationships. Because when you have lesbian divorce statistics that look like that, the girls are kind of telling on themselves.
Now, I want to pause it there for a second. I did a video on this actually a while back, and they broke it down by women that were married to women, men dating, men married to men, women married to men, and they had basically all the groups. The highest group that got divorced the most often was women to women. Like she said, 75%. The next group, women to men. Do you know who divorced the least? I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, men to men, ironically. So it does kind of tell you the women are not doing all right. The next clip I have here is, here's the other thing I was going to say about that, is it does tell you that they say there's the same problems in the relationships. So it can't really be men that's always at fault if a man's not even involved in the relationship, but they use the same excuses for the marriage to end. It's kind of telling, I think, at a 75% rate. Interestingly enough, in that relationship, women file for divorce 100% of the time. Okay, this next clip is from Fresh and Fit, ironically, and it's one of their guests is on there, and he's asking women, like, you will never date a man from McDonald's. You'll never date a man from Burger King, because for you, it's not about love. It's about leveling up.
You guys date up, we date down. That means every ex-boyfriend you've had was better than you. That's why you.
And unfortunately, this does have copyright music, so I have to pause it a lot more often than I normally would. But what he says is salient. Every one of these women that is dating up because they refuse to date down, that means the guys date down. Yet the women say, but these are the men we deserve. Okay, but those men don't deserve you.
You let him hit it because you guys date up. Could you marry a Burger King employee?
I won't do that.
Could any girl here do it?
I'm just going to pause again because of the stupid music.
How come the men here don't mind if she's a bum?
So his point on here is very interesting. It's that women are the ones that are the gold diggers, and men are the only ones that truly marry and date for love. Why? Because they don't care how much money she makes, and that they don't care what her income is. They just want somebody that's going to love. And now I'll tackle this at the end of it because I actually have to add a little something on it.
Because we're the romantic gender and you guys are of the devil.
Now, he's like, we're the romantic ones, you're of the devil. I'm not going to go that far with it. But what I'll say is this. Men and women have different priorities in their prospective spouses. And that's okay. That's kind of how we're designed. It's the lizard brain stuff. That's the way that we've survived for millennia on the planet. Men want fertility, beauty, youth, good mother, women that will not cheat, will not lie. Here's why men are so bothered with lying, because that means she could be cheating. Why do men care if she cheats? Because she might get pregnant with another man's offspring, and we have to care for it. And our genes don't carry on, but another dude's will, and they're using our money to do it. That's a problem. Okay, so that's why men want honesty. Men want respect. Now, women want respect too. What do women want? Women want safety and protection and a provider and a good father for their kids, right? Well, what's happened is that men are still expected to be traditional. In other words, pay for everything, support the family, be a good father, take care of her, meet her needs, right? Be masculine, be strong, be a protector. All the things that men traditionally have wanted. But men want slim, or at least healthy, fit, perky, young. And what do women? Everything but that. They're literally, women want a traditional man, but they bring nothing traditional to the table. I think there's a lot of guys out there that would say, you know something? If she wants to make 50% of the income and she wants to pay 50% of the bills and she wants to do 50% of the chores and she wants to do 50% of protection of the home, if she wants an exact half and half relationship, okay, let's try it. But the problem is they don't. They don't really, because they want you to help them half on their housework and then do all the manly stuff and also do all the protecting. And also your money is for the family, but her money is for her. See, that's why all of that falls apart. So in many ways, he is right that all these women think, well, I'm in the relationship and that's all that matters. He gets me and that's enough of a prize. That doesn't work anymore. Women want the traditional man, but they bring nothing traditional to the relationship anymore. All right, this next one's one from what a guy says, and I'll get to I've mixed them all in. I just have a ton mixed in together. But they're kind of all on this topic of what women are seeing, where they're like, yeah, women are kind of horrible. We've known this for a while. And then I've got some from Passport Bros and some women saying why they hate and like Passport Bros. So this guy says, what I learned is being a passport bro. I don't know if this has music over it.
Here's what I learned being a passport bro.
No, it doesn't.
Being a single American guy in South America, I sometimes post stuff like that, but this, and my comments get crazy. People get mad. I've been traveling through South America for over a year, and here are the 3 main takeaways. First thing, and this is funny, you're exotic. You're exotic. I know it sounds crazy. You have an accent. The American accent is kind of trash, to be honest. But the fact that you have one, I think, peppers your words and gives everything you say a little bit of weight, a little bit of spice. It makes it more exciting. The second thing, and this is really important on dates, people love showing off their country and love showing you things that they love. It's like back when you were a kid, you found out one of your friends never saw Space Jam and you were like, oh my God. And then you got to be excited watching them watch it. And that happens a lot on dates. It plays into the excitement and keeps things light and keeps things fun. Finally, number 3. And this is one that most of the comments are about. There is a stereotype or stigma around Americans being rich, which is kind of true because our currency is like the global currency. So if you make $60,000 a year, you can live like you make $120,000 a year pretty comfortably. But experiences and the things money can provide makes a huge difference in dating.
Okay. I wanted to address this one a little bit because I traveled overseas. Many of you that have watched me for a while, you know that, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, right before I started my YouTube channel, I actually got motivated to start my YouTube channel while traveling abroad. Here in the United States, I dated. This is going back, 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, something like that. I dated. I did relatively well, but I found that a lot of the relationships didn't go anywhere. Hooking up was relatively easy at the time. But a lot of the women that I met were not very quality as far as like long-term dating potential. And I also found that like dating in and of itself, you would get a lot of like non-matches and you'd spend a lot of time spinning your wheels trying to get out on dates. So when I traveled around the world, what I did is for about a week before I got to a location, I paid the extra $9.99 a month to Tinder to be able to set my location anywhere. And so before I left the United States, I set my location about a week ahead of time in like Reykjavik when I was going to Iceland. And then I'd set my next location wherever in Norway. And I always set kind of where I thought I would be in a week or two. And then I would swipe. What's interesting is that, yes, you are kind of foreign, and so you're therefore interesting. Number 2, there is some perception that you're maybe more successful, but here's what's interesting. I never really got asked what I did for a living, and I never got asked how much money I made or anything like that. Okay. So I set my location in Iceland. I had a date lined up in Iceland before I went, and the same thing in Norway, and the same thing in Sweden, and the same thing in Denmark, and the same thing in England, and the same thing in Ireland. You can see where I'm going with this. Every hop I made, I had a date or two waiting for me. Here's what's interesting. None of the dates flaked out of me, number 1. They all showed up. Number 2, not all of them put out. It wasn't that kind of a thing all the time, although sometimes it did happen. But the other thing is they had good conversation, and they were funny, and they were interesting, and they were feminine, and they were sweet. I didn't run into one date where I was like, ugh, that was not good. Now, things may have changed drastically between when I was doing this a few years ago and now, obviously. But once I got to Southeast Asia, which is where a lot of passport bros are going, either Southeast Asia or Latin America. When I got to Southeast Asia, I wasn't getting, like, I'd set myself in like a main city like Bangkok or like Cebu or maybe Manila. I would set myself there, and then I'd go to bed and I'd wake up, and the next day I had 150 matches. I would say 75% of those I wasn't interested in. But there were 75 where it's like, wow, there are a lot of feminine, petite, like in shape, pretty women who also had very professional jobs. You know, these women aren't like, you know, I don't know, they're not like from a poor town or country that's not doing anything. Now, a lot of them were originally, but then they'd go to Bangkok or Cebu, wherever, they'd get their education. They'd have a 4-year degree, and they'd be working at like telecom companies. Was one girl I was dating. She was in telecoms. Another one was like for a business manager for a hotel chain. So, and all of them spoke English. You know, a lot of times you'd use a word they didn't know, and so you'd simplify it a little bit. But what's interesting is a lot of times then the women would try to use the word a little bit so they could learn some English. So not only were you like a mentor when it came to English, but you didn't pay for the dates. I mean, sometimes I'd pay a little bit, but oftentimes the women would at least pay half. And when you get to Southeast Asia, the women paid all the time. Now, the difference is when I was down in Peru, the women didn't pay. It's kind of a poor country, so down there I did pay a lot more. But the dates were fun. They were filled with activities. It wasn't just like a lot of these women that say about the passport bros of, oh, you know, you need to pay for everything. When I was in Thailand, the couple of dates I went on with Thailand, one girl I ended up hooking up with for like 2 months. And I've said this before, so I'll keep it quick, but I date one girl in Thailand, and this was after going through a few dates, and I'd kind of select the one that I liked the best. And the same thing in the Philippines, although in the Philippines I had already like talked to her for a long time. So when I got off the plane, she was there with a taxi, and we were kind of already like, hey, let's do this. I dated one in Philippines and one in Thailand, and then when you could only stay for 30 days and your visa ran out, so I just go back and forth between the two girls in Southeast Asia for like 4 or 5 months. I didn't lie to them. I didn't trick them. I didn't say I was looking for a potential wife. I didn't say this was going to be anything more than what it was. All the women knew that. These are women that are, you know, 22, 23, 25, 27. They're not dumb kids. They know what's going on. And so these guys that are going over there, for some reason, and I'll play the videos on this stuff, but it's a whole different world out there. And the difference is that women actually are respectful and kind and nice and generous and sweet and feminine and giving. It's all the things women used to be here in the United States, but they aren't anymore. Okay, we'll keep going here. Sorry, I get on these tangents. I know I go long, but...
Some advice to passport bros coming from a passport cis, because I came to Thailand over 10 years ago, and I fell in love my first day here in Koh Samui with my husband, who is Thai. I was never planning on coming here to meet a man, but that's what ended up happening. I think there is an imbalance in the West, or coming from an American perspective, of the role of men and women. And personally, I have a successful YouTube channel where I get a lot of comments, and most of them are good, but I do get a lot of negative comments. And I noticed that a lot of the negative comments were from women, and women need to take responsibility for that. Why we feel like we need to tear another woman down, maybe because we see that she has something that we don't have, or because of jealousy. A lot of the misogyny actually comes from other women and not from men. It's important to not blame other people for our problems.
You know, I think she's got a really interesting take on this, which is, number one, she went traveling. She didn't expect to meet a dude. She did. Now it's a husband of 10 years. Now, in this clip that I cut out, because it was like a 3 or 4 minute video just of hers on its own. One thing she said is, she said that men overseas, a lot of them are masculine. They bring the traditional values that a lot of American men don't. And I started thinking about this, and I know a lot of you guys out there bring the traditional values. You just haven't maybe either had the opportunity to meet the woman, or you haven't met the right woman. That's all part of it. But also the younger men growing up today are being raised like girls. They're being told, you need to be in touch with your emotions and you need to be feminine. And if you're straight and you're white, you're bad. But if you're part of the LGHD community, you're great. And so men are growing up today without a lot of those traditional stoic, strong, silent types, being masculine. And so she's saying, hey, a lot of the guys overseas are actually more masculine than the guys here in the West. And I think she's right on that. The second thing that I actually captured in this video is most of the hate that she's getting about, dating abroad and dating other people and finding more traditional men and being more feminine women. Most of the hate she's getting are from women. These are women that are complaining. So she says it's actually the women that are being misogynistic because she maybe has something that these women don't have. See, it really boils down to women want everything. Women, and I've already talked about this, so I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole again, but women want everything, but they also want to be everything. Like they want to be men, but they also want men to be traditional, but they don't want to be traditional women. It's the same problem. This one I find kind of interesting. This woman, she actually has I'll just let it play.
Messages for the passport bros. I was talking to my mother the other night, and I was explaining to her what the movement was about. She had never heard of it. And, after I gave her the explanation of why men are leaving westernized countries to find wives elsewhere, or even love elsewhere, or dating elsewhere, she said, oh my God, I have a friend, her son is doing that very thing and basically having the best time of his life. He is dating the most beautiful, wonderful women that treat him the way women used to treat men. He meets their families, and the families absolutely adore him. They shower him in food and cakes and pies, very kind and loving and open to him, very unlike a lot of situations you find here in the United States. There's one woman in particular that he's more serious about now, and she washes his feet. I know that might sound extreme, but why shouldn't you wash someone's feet that you care about? She does his laundry. She's friendly, fit, and fun. All of that stuff that U.S. women, claim is subservient or demeaning, or you shouldn't do that for a man. I mean, it sounds insane. So my mom was saying that he is just so happy and having such a wonderful time over there. He doesn't want to get married right now, and why should he? You don't have to become a passport bro just to go over and snag a wife. Maybe you just want to date for a while and have a positive dating experience before you find the woman of your dreams. So I support this 100%. If I had a son, this is exactly what I would tell him to do.
What's interesting about this is the reason why I find this such an interesting topic is because, again, I've visited like 36 countries. And my experience is I did not have one negative experience overseas. And after I heard her story about the foot washing and things like that, it kind of reminded me of a really interesting story, which I'll tell here in a second. But like she mentions, the women over there, yes, they will do things that women over here you wouldn't expect them to. And when women hear stories like this, they think of the women overseas as like these third world, immature, bumpkin women who are just being taken advantage of by us smart, cunning men. But the truth of it is, it's just a different world. When I was in the Philippines, and the girl that I was dating while I was over there for like 3 months, again, alternating between her and another gal over in the Philippines, one thing that I found really fascinating, number one, she didn't expect me to pay for the dates. Oftentimes she paid for both of us. But there were a couple of vacations, and I said, let me treat, because she had been doing so many things that were nice for me. I wanted to give back to her. And so I said, let me treat. Like, I'll get us a week vacation on a beach, and we're going to rent a scooters, because you take the buses, and then you take a jeepney, and then you take a jeepney to a smaller little taxi, and you go way out in the middle of nowhere. And this was down, I forget the name of the area. It was on one of the beaches, and you could go watch these, they're like feeder sharks. They look like giant catfish. I forget what they're called. But they're like massive whales. And you could go out there in a little outrigger canoe and swim with them. If I had any of the video, it's on my other computer. I'd bring it up. But anyway, while we were out there, I rented a place on the beach, and it was $15 a night, and you could literally open the door and take 4 or 5 steps down these stairs, because it was on little posts. The building was kind of up, off the beach by, 3 or 4 feet. You could walk down these stairs, and then you could walk, 10 or 15 feet, and you're right in the ocean, your own kind of private ocean. And it was so beautiful out there. It was $15 a night. Now, for her, that's not a metric crap ton of money, because she worked in the city and made good money. But her good money was probably, $20,000 a year. And the scooter rental was like $5 a day. So it wasn't much. So I wanted to give something back. And I had to fight her a little bit, but finally she did it, or agreed to it. What was interesting is I remember waking up one morning, and she was out at the beach, and she woke up and got up, and she went out to the beach to go swimming to wake up, and she let me sleep in a little bit. And I woke up and I looked, and my clothes bag was over next to the sink. And as I do my backpacking and everything, there's not always a laundromat or something by. So what I did a lot of times is, whether I was in a hostel, whether I was in a hotel, whether I was on the road, and I did this in a bathroom at a gas station, I would take my clothes, and in the sink, and my clothes were not like gross or dirty or anything like that, but I had to do my laundry. And so what oftentimes I would do is I'd look for either a mop bucket, or if I had to use the sink, sometimes I'd wear them in the shower. In this case, they had a big kitchen sink, and I filled half of it with soapy water, and I started washing my clothes, and then I rinse them out and wring them out, and then I hang them up and let them dry, and then I put them back in my bag to wear clean. When you're on the road, sometimes you have to do things that are a little bit odd to, just to maintain. Well, I started washing the clothes in the soapy water, and she came in and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm just getting caught up on my laundry and everything. And she came over and gave my hand just a little slap, nothing really hard, just gave my hand a tap. And she said, "Number one, you don't know how to wash clothes by hand. Filipina girls know how to wash clothes by hand. You do it wrong, I'm sure." And I said, "Well, I do it like this." She said, "No, let me show you a better way." And then she showed me how to do it. And it's just, she showed how they fold the soap in and all this other stuff. I said, "Oh, okay, thanks very much." And then when I went to actually wash my clothes, she said, "This is woman's work." She said, "You may have to do this when you're on the road, but when a woman's around, women do this." And I said, "Well, what do I do?" She said, "Go enjoy the beach, go swimming." And I said, "Okay, do you need help with anything?" She said, "Shoo, go." So I went out swimming for a while, and then when I came back, she had gone to the front shop, and she had fruit, and she'd cut it all up and cored it and prepared it and everything else. And so she had a bowl of fruit waiting for me, and my clothes were clean. And all she wanted me to do is be a man and be there. That's it. And so many people can't. I couldn't even get used to it. It took me a while, because I don't feel like I'm doing enough here. But for many of these women, you just being a man and you being there to make sure that she's safe, and you to be her partner. And so these are very strong women, but they're not strong in a masculine way. They're strong in a very womanly way. And it's really quite, beautiful, interesting. And she was like a 105-pound, girl that came up to my nose. So she was like maybe 5'3", little tiny thing, but she was also beautiful. She was feminine. She didn't wear, I don't think I ever saw her put on makeup, ever. But she would dress nicely, and she always still managed to look feminine. It was really refreshing. And I think after being here for so long, guys forget what it's like to kind of be treated like a king in many ways. And we want to treat, or at least traditionally, good men want to treat her like a queen. But we don't know how when the woman says, I'll take care of everything. But if you think about it, the way men take care of her is by being the protector, by the one that's making the decisions. Hey, let's do this today, or I'll keep you safe. Or if we run into a problem, I've got it covered. And then also being funny and being charming and being interesting to her. In many cases, that's because if you think about it, we often as men say, we're very simple to please. All you have to do is treat me well, maybe anticipate what I want from a woman. And you know what that is a lot of the times for men. But the women that I found overseas, all they wanted was kind of the same thing. They were simple women. Women were like, I want you to be masculine, be a man, be strong, be assertive, be confident, be nice to me. Make me feel protected. If maybe sometimes pay the bills. It doesn't always have to be that way. But if there was a little bit of trouble brewing or something didn't seem right, to reach over and say, hey, let's get out of here. I don't feel comfortable with what's going on. That's really all they needed. And the rest of it is just left up to very enjoyable romance and romantic things and enjoying each other's company. It wasn't that struggle of, I don't know, modern relationships, really. I have 2 minutes left. I'll leave it at I'm going to play this last one. I'll leave it at this. And this is a video of somebody saying when they catch a passport bro trying to fly overseas. I want you to listen to this woman. This woman is now, not all women, of course, here in the United States or in the West are like this, but this is how women are starting to come across, is they're willing to get in physical fights with men, and they're argumentative, and they're just brash. Men do not want that.
Oh my God. Hey, yo. I dare you with your gay ass. Oh my God. I dare you. What are you trying to be on?
Now, for those of you that aren't watching or can't see what's going on, this is in an airplane. The guy's sitting down. It looks like someone, not an airport employee, just somebody else standing in between him. And she's yelling, I'll dare you. I'll beat your ass and I'll beat the F out of you. Stand up. I'll show you what I can do. I'll beat you. What kind of woman is that? Like, if that's another dude, you'd be like, dude, calm down. Like, why are you being all aggressive? Like, man, settle down. But when it's coming from a woman, and here's the problem with this, there's lots of problems with it. But here's one of the problems with this. If he stands up and she punches him, okay, if he swings back, it's game over. Either he'll be arrested, more than likely he'll get blasted, a bunch of white knights will jump up to save him. Like, fighting a woman has 0 wins for a man. Because if the man loses, well, that's not good. If the man wins, well, that's not good. Because, of course, he should win. And so if he wins, he's still the bad guy. If she's being horrible to him and he defends himself and she hurts him, and so he decides to hurt her back, there's no win for this, and women know it. And so they take advantage of it. And they get cocky and they get arrogant.
What you trying to be? I want whatever you want. I'll beat you the up. What you trying to be? If you really want to be, what you trying to be? It's whatever. I'm trying to be. Somebody know it. One day that I'm over.
You get the idea. Just hyper aggressive. This guy was talking about like women. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but he was talking about women that here in the United States think that these women that he's talking to are like backwards nobodies. And he's like, nah, she has her own money. I mean, you can see here, she's a pretty Latina, nice body shape. And and I agree with him. I'm in full agreement. He's right. They have their own money. Now, a lot of times that means that maybe she will pay for a $1 or $2 breakfast. But in Peru, when I was in Peru, you could get a freshly squeezed juice where they would have bananas and oranges and papaya and I don't know, remember all the local fruits that they have. They would take all these fruits and they'd cut them and peel them and throw them in a blender and blend up this amazing juice. And it was big. It was like this tall. It was more than a pint. And it'd be like $1.50 or $2. And a lot of times your date would pay for it. And so they have their own money. A lot of them are college educated. A lot of them speak English. And here's the last one. I'll just play this through. This isn't very long.
Passport Bros video going around where American women are getting kind of upset that.
When are we going to escape this mentality? She said that these bros are not marrying foreign women because they speak little English or because they have a lack of education, but because they're more nourishing and more caring. You're describing a maid.
See, and this is what the feminist thinks. That if a woman is nurturing and caring, that's a maid. Now, I don't know about you. I have had a maid that cleaned up I had a house I was getting ready to sell. And I wanted a maid to come in like once every 2 weeks or so and just vacuum and keep everything neat because I was working a lot and I didn't want to, and I was showing the house actually at the time. So I didn't want to be bothered with that. And I wanted to try to keep it clean. A maid has never nurtured or cared for me. They're mistaking nurture and care with subservience and servitude somehow. Now, I don't know about you, but if a woman's sweet and she's kind and she does favors for a man and she treats him well, that's not being subservient. That's doing what a woman does. And that's also not being used. A woman's not being used if she decides to make me a sandwich and maybe clean up and do the laundry. That's no more being used than a man's being used if he pays the bills and takes care of the family financially. If you go back to that first video I was talking about here, where if your rent is $500 and these women are like, oh, I tell them it's $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,500 in one case, are the men being used? Of course they are. Of course they're being used. What's the difference? The difference is, number one, those women were lying to their man to get extra resources from him, which is, evil. And here, just to have a woman be kind and sensitive and being giving care to their husband is a maid somehow. That's how the feminists see this. No wonder men are walking away in droves.
A free lift and one for the rest of your life.
A free live-in maid for the rest of your life. Now, I don't know about you, but if any of you guys have been married or dated seriously, it's anything but free. You're going to be helping with bills. You're going to usually, if she calls you and she says, hey, I just came out from work and I got a flat tire and I don't know how to change a flat tire. How many guys are like, we'll call AAA. All right, bye. Not now, young men today maybe, but my generation, my father's generation, and maybe some millennials are like, all right, hang on, man. It happened to me when I have a girlfriend. She got a flat tire. She's like, I don't know where my spare is, or I don't even know. I haven't checked it or anything like that. I said, all right, look at it. Where's the puncture? She said, I can't tell. I said, is it in the side of the tire or is it on the inside of the tire? And she said, I don't know. I said, feel around on the inside of the tire. Do you feel a nail? No. Do you see any on the outside of the tire? No. I said, okay, just hang tough. I'll be right there. I have a little compressor that I keep in my vehicle because I'm a man. I have Fix-A-Flat. Why do I have Fix-A-Flat? Because I'm a man, And so I grabbed a spray bottle of water. I put a few drops of soap into it and threw that in the car. I drive over there. I hook up the compressor, turn it on. It starts filling the tire. I can hear the air coming out. I spray it with soapy water. You look for the bubbles. There's the bubbles. There must be a nail there. Find the nail. Dig it out with some pliers. Put a patch kit in there, which is like it's a little handle with a steel piece with like tar and rope. You stick it in there and twist it around and pop it back out, and that'll seal it up for the most part. And then you put a little Fix-A-Flat in there. You finish topping it off. You wheel it around for a little while. Good to go. That patch lasted 3-4 days until we got a chance to go take it and have the tire replaced, or you can get them plugged but her tires were a little bit old. We just replaced it. That's not free. That's a lot of work. Now, let me ask you guys, which is more work, doing that for your woman or asking for a sandwich a couple times a week? What's easier? Paying for the house, paying for dinners, paying for everything, or maybe getting your laundry done? See, that's the problem, is they only see what they get. And then when they see what they give, they can't associate the two. It's imbalanced for them. And this is the problem with women like this.
At that. And at the end of the video, she's like, oh, this is mutually beneficial. And if it doesn't work out for you, just leave. Leave where? With who? With what money?
See, again, this woman apparently hasn't heard of the divorce laws in the United States. Women leave with half of everything in most cases. So that's why I say, if you're going to be with these women, stay over there. Because if you get married and you come back here and, she even if she has a good education, her English may not be great, she'll get a job. It probably won't be as much money as you make. But again, she's assuming these women are coming over here that can't speak English. They're not educated. They're like backwater hicks from Southeast Asia.
In a foreign country where you speak little English and have little education, just do.
I'll tell you what, most of the girls that I met over there are more educated, more eloquent, and speak English just as well as American women do, if not better.
Like a little more thinking, girl. Why do they want to marry a woman that can't speak the predominant language? Because
they do speak the predominant language in their own country. Most of the ones that men are talking to are bilingual. They speak two languages, one very fluently, theirs, and one sometimes broken. Sometimes they struggle a little bit. Two languages. These are not stupid women, because they're a threat to these women. They're a threat to these women. They have to paint them as, oh, these are just poor women that don't know anything. And as she says here, because they're easier to control. Have you ever met a Brazilian woman or an Italian woman? Tell me they're easier to control. Well, you ask me, a Filipino woman, a Thai woman, they're not easy to control at all. You step out of your rope, they will flatten you.
Because they're easier to control. It's not as easy as you're saying. So stop misinforming people.
So she's the one saying that is misinforming people, but yet this woman that looks to be Japanese. Now I know the Japanese and Koreans do not get along very well because history. But she could be Japanese, she could be South Korean, she could be a lot of things. Listen to her.
Video going around where American women are getting kind of upset that
she literally speaks English just fine. That it's such a risk. So there are women that are coming around saying, now you notice the women that have a good head on their shoulders and are rational about it. They're like, yeah, I can see why women are, or why men are going to do this. If I had a son, I'd say to do the same. There's a woman that said, I found a great guy overseas because he's traditionally masculine, and I happened to meet him and we fell in love. But when the men go over to look for traditionally feminine women, somehow now we're taking advantage of a bunch of stupid women. This is the arrogance of the West, to assume that, oh, well, I'm from the United States and I'm educated and I speak for all women. I got news for you. These women from these foreign, colleges and things like that, versus what women are learning in colleges today, those foreign women are smarter than the American women, because not only are they getting a better education, they're bilingual and in some cases trilingual. A lot of the Peruvians I met, they speak Spanish. They also speak, I do not know the traditional language of the Peruvians. Like it's a dialect that comes from Inca. Some of them spoke Brazil, and they spoke English. There's like 3 or 4 languages in there. How many American women that speak 2 languages fluently? Hell, a lot of them can't manage English fluently, especially if you go listen to that chick that was on the airplane that I pulled up there. This is what I'm talking about. Women see passport bros as either a threat because it's a loss to their resources, and these men are going over and meeting slim, attractive, fit, educated, feminine women. And these women here are like, well, I'm fat and I got an attitude, and then they see it as a threat. Or the women here that actually understand what's going on, they're like, yeah, I can see why guys are doing this because there's no really traditional women left. This is really becoming a thing. Like, as far as trends, a lot of these videos on TikTok now have millions of views. Guys are genuinely getting interested in this. And what's interesting is, like, my flight, when I came home from New Zealand. And my New Zealand flight was like, I want to say like $800 or something like that. It was pretty expensive. But let's say a flight over to Southeast Asia cost you $800 one way. Well, again, you can go between countries pretty easily in Southeast Asia. And so you can fly over into Thailand, and then you can go to the Philippines, and then you can go to maybe Malaysia, and then you can go to South Korea, and then you can go to Japan, and then you can go back to Thailand and Philippines, and you can do a loop. And with your passport, you're fine to do it. Do you know how much that costs you? I stayed in a hostel in Japan. I want to say it was like $20 US, $20 a night, $15 a night. I stayed in hostels in Thailand for $5 a night. I stayed in hostels in the Philippines for, I don't know, $5 a night. Not very often because I was with that girl all the time. So most of the time I was in a hotel room for like $10 or $12 a night. We ate at great restaurants, and it was $8 for two of us, $10. I went on great vacations, renting a scooter for $5 and going and eat brilliant meals for $5, $8 for two people. When I traveled for the 15 or 16 months I traveled overseas, it cost me about $12,000. Yes, I lived out of a backpack. Yes, I hitchhiked. Yes, I rode bus everywhere I went, or I walked, or I rented a bicycle. Like when I was in Amsterdam, I rented a bicycle. There are so many ways but the creativity is what makes it fun. But for 15 months, it cost me $12,000. That's less than $1,000 a month. Now, again, inflation and the bug and all that stuff, things may have changed a little bit, but it was cheaper for me to travel all around Southeast Asia, eating these amazing food and meeting these amazing people and spending time with some really, really attractive, feminine, sexy women that, meet the right one and you're going to have yourself a very good time. It was so much better than it is here in the United States with so many people that are here to date. I don't blame some guys for finding a way to just perpetually travel overseas. In many cases, there are jobs you can get where you can get a visa to teach English, even if you're not like a teacher. You could just basically submit. I think you have to have an associate's degree, but you could submit a form and teach English in another country. I think there's so many options out there for men that are better than here in the West. And I think women either are starting to understand it or they're starting to hate it. But either way, what's interesting is one thing you won't see happening is women changing their ways. These feminists are not going to change their ways. They're not going to come around. They would rather stay single and mad. And I'll leave it on this, the very last thing I'll talk about, because this isn't worthy of its own video. Emily Ratajkowski. Emily Ratajkowski. She's a model. She's 30. She's got a kid. Recently, she joked that she's ready to date anyone who wants to take me to dinner. The newly single model says her healing process has passed. She says, I've healed. I'm ready to date anybody. She's in her 30s. She has a kid. She has a 2-year-old son. And she's still a beautiful woman, but that's not going to last forever. Let's face it, right? So now she says, I'm ready to date anybody. I'm ready to get out there. And you say, wow, she must be close to hitting the wall. She's ready to settle. Literally a story from a month later. Emily Ratajkowski once broke up with her boyfriend because he showed up in short pants and no socks. And this was a date she had a couple of weeks ago. She's 32-year-old with a kid. Yeah, she's a supermodel, but still. The point is, women will say, I'm ready. I'm ready to date anybody that wants to take me to dinner. Anybody that's a 5%er, let's be honest. A 1%er in her case. I'm ready to date anybody that wants to take me to dinner that's in the 1%. But a 1%er shows up and he was wearing short pants and no socks. I don't know if that meant he was in loafers, which you sometimes, whatever. The whole point is she's like, I had to break up with him because ankles are gross. Okay, if this is the way of Western women, good luck to you. I tell you, fellas, I used to say go to Ukraine because Ukraine was a very good, like, Western or Eastern Bloc. You could probably go to a lot of these countries, whether it's Russia, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's, you know, I don't know, insert 5 or 6 of the other Western countries. Poland. I went on dates in Poland. They were very traditional women. You're not probably going to hop in bed immediately with a Polish woman, or at least not all of them. You'd be lucky if you get some of them. But the point is, a lot of times you'd ask them out on dates and they'd say, are you going to be here for a while? Like, they were marriage-minded when they dated. Same, you know, in Thailand, yes, they're much more carefree. Same thing in the Philippines. But a lot of them would love to have an American boyfriend or, you know, English boyfriend or Australian boyfriend or whatever. Why? Because a lot of the men, and this is no slight against any of you guys that are in Thailand, but a lot of the men in Thailand and a lot of the men in the Philippines, the women didn't want to date them because a lot of the corporations seem to be filled with women. A lot of the higher educated employees at a lot of the places that I went to kind of check out were mostly women. A lot of the guys did the manual labor. Similar things happening here in the United States. The women are getting the education. The men are doing the manual labor. And the women in the Philippines and in Thailand, just like here in the United States, they think anybody that didn't get a degree was less educated. But interestingly, because I came from the United States, me not being higher educated didn't matter. For some reason, they attached a what's the word I want to look for? They automatically gave you like, oh, you must be intelligent and you must be successful because, you know, Americans have more money. And but they were fine dating an older man because in Thailand and in the Philippines, they see older men as being more secure and more intelligent, and they're done with their boyish ways, and they were more manly. I've done videos on this stuff, and I could get way more into it, but it's an interesting dynamic. So I'll say to many of you guys, if you can find something that you can work remotely, my God, head south or head east, young man. Get out there and have some fun in your life. You know, the fact that I could not even really get many matches on dating sites here in the West, and you go over there and you've literally got 150 like very attractive Asian women to choose from. It's not a bad deal. I think that's something every young man should experience, or even every old man should experience once in his life. Live a little and get out there. But the passport bros are really onto something, and I hope this trend continues. And I hope more men continue to do the traveling. And you know something, I will say this to you men that maybe live in those areas. Try something different. You know, if you're in Southeast Asia, try going to Latin America. If you're Latin American, try to go to Southeast Asia. Because, you know, the guy in this video here that was talking, let me see if I can find him here. You know, this guy that was talking here, right? Like, he's not traditionally good looking. He's got a thinning head of hair. His teeth are not perfectly straight. He didn't look to be that tall to me. And he showed himself at one point in some water holding up a girl. Let me see if I can find it. I just went past it there for a second. Yeah, here it is right here. If you look at him, like, he's not Mr. Hard Body. Let me mute this. He's not Mr. Six Pack. Like, he looks like he's got a little bit of a gut on him. And you know, he's here with a little penne or a little South American girl. Like, live a little. Get out there. Just because things here suck doesn't mean that you can't make something of it. Save up. Even if you can't necessarily work and travel at the same time, save up 4 to 6 weeks of vacation. Take that flight out. Have a couple of grand saved up and just live it up. Live it up. I think once you do that, maybe it changes your mind and you decide, you know what? I do want a relationship and I do want to get laid and I do want a girlfriend. Just look for it elsewhere. I think the passport bros have it right. And eventually either women agree or they lose out. I don't know. I know this is a very long one today, but I'm rather long-winded today. You know me. To get me off on a tangent, all you have to do is wave something in front of my face. I'll start talking about it. Guys, if you're not a member with us over here at Locals, come over today. We live stream a lot of events. We live stream movies. We have a great time. Thousands of men And a couple of ladies that have joined us over there have a great community. Come on over and join today. I really hope you do. I'd appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next one.